about the VoT fitness function. And VoT is like variation over time, which is a third type of fitness function for our evolutionary linear. And here we are using the configuration of threshold 0.1 but using 100 frames, all the frames, and running for 500 generations. The output looks like this for first generation, and this is the kernel which is randomly initialized, and this is the final output for variation over time, and this is the kernel for 49, basically 500 generation. Then we have the configuration of 0.5 and 100 frames, which shows the output like this and has a kernel like this. Maybe the output 461 generation looks like this. However, there is one more observation that was done before, is like the dark pixels actually try to get bordered, but the more in luminous or more yellowish pixels gets gathered on in the center part, which actually makes sense because the known kernels are also basically mostly centered toward the, or center of mass of the kernel is more towards the yellowish part, whereas the border or the corner parts actually look dark. So this is there. We have seen elites here. Let's see elite for last 10 frames and threshold 0.5. So it shows like this. The kernel info looks like this, and this also. Okay, then we have threshold 0.5 every 10th frame, and every 10th frame actually performs well in most of the cases. So here also it should look different, at least it should know there are some variations in initial frames. Okay, let's check for last 10 frames, cell threshold 0.3, and this is okay. Then okay, okay, then every 10 frame and threshold 0.3, we have output looks like this, which is basically rewarding more variations over time in the frames. And here also it proves the hypothesis, like in the corner it actually gets darkened, and in the center you can see the density of yellowish pixels basically. So this is one observation. We are checking for the configuration 100 frames and threshold 0.3, and it has output for 0th generation looks like this, and for 481 generation it looks like this. And again the kernel info, then we have okay, again we can see that the center of mass actually have density of yellowish pixels here, a good amount of density. And in fact this is the configuration that we ran for longer generations, as in for 2500 generations. Then we have 500 generation 0.1 and last 10 frames, and then we have 2500 generations 0.3 threshold and every 10th frame. So we keep every 10th frame as actually a good measure of fitness for the evaluation of different frames, because it is actually performing well over variety of fitness functions. So this is experiment 1 for this configuration basically, and this was experiment 2 for the same configuration, as in 0.1 threshold and every 10th frame. and it actually went up to 2479. So even after crossing these many generations, it was actually progressing for the higher fitness basically, where you can see after these many generations the center of mass was actually, again can be observed that most of the yellowish pixels are getting centered here. Okay, so this was all for variation over time.